Hello and welcome to this week's market recap. Keep tuning in to hear about this week's market winners and losers and current economic news, including rising costs of living, COVID outbreaks, and class action lawsuits. This week's market mover was Legacy Iron Ore Limited, with the company's share price increasing by 52% over the past week. Investors rushed to buy in after the company secured a profitable joint venture deal with mining company Hawthorne Resources and Gina Rinehart's subsidiary Hancock Magnetite Holdings. The deal concerned the Western Australia-based Mount Bevan iron ore project, for which Legacy Iron Ore currently owns the majority interest. This week's market loser was AVZ Minerals Limited, the mining company's share price experiencing a 16% decline. Analysts suspect that this was driven by profit-taking from traders due to major gains in recent weeks as Australia's mineral sector continues to boom. Onto this week's market and macro trends. Australian and US market indexes are all in the red as the US Federal Reserve has hinted at an incoming 50 basis point rate hike to tackle rising inflation. The Fed's March meeting notes indicate that a rate hike has been on the cards for a while, but the war in Ukraine has led to delays in this policy decision. The RBA is yet to lift Australia's cash rate above 0.1%, despite inflation remaining above the RBA's target bands at 3.5%. As for exchange rates, one Australian dollar will currently buy 75 US cents. Australia's unemployment rate remains low at 4%, with the federal government hoping that this tight labour market will begin to lift wages and combat rising costs of living. On the topic of rising costs of living, recent data released by the ABS indicates that 39% of Australian businesses expect to increase their prices more than usual over the next 3 months. 97% of these businesses anticipate price increases driven by non-staff related operating costs, the price hikes being primarily driven by increasing fuel and energy costs and increases in the cost of products and services used by the business. Fuel costs remain high due to the conflict in Ukraine, with hopes that the federal government's halving of the fuel excise tax will reduce this cost for Australia's households and businesses. Shanghai announced a daily record of COVID-19 cases last Wednesday, with cases rising above 16,000. This is China's worst outbreak since the beginning of the pandemic and has led to strict lockdown measures aligning with authorities' COVID-0 policy. There are concerns that these economic shutdowns will further disrupt already stretched global supply chains, likely leading to delays and price increases around the world as Shanghai's large manufacturing sector remains in lockdown. 7-Eleven is set to pay out a hefty $98 billion to hundreds of their franchisees after being subject to a class action lawsuit, the company facing allegations that their business model was a lemon built on wage theft. 7-Eleven has been hit by wage theft allegations since 2015, after a joint investigation by ABC's Four Corners and Fairfax Media revealed that their staff, primarily migrant workers, were being severely underpaid. These investigations, including a 2019 parliamentary inquiry, have sparked broader concerns regarding Australia's franchise system, which has been found to have widespread issues related to unprofitable networks and franchisee exploitation. That's all for this week's market recap. Thanks for listening and be sure to tune in next week for another summary of the week's economic news.